Hello, please, can you hear me now? Please indicate in the comments. I'm so sorry, I have to start all over again because a lot of people couldn't hear me. Please check and indicate if you can hear me. Thank you, Evans. Can everyone else hear me? Please indicate in the comments so we can start all over again. Hello, Eto. Please, we are starting from the beginning. It's loud and clear now. Thank you very much, Hananita. Thank you, Hajaratu. Okay. Thank you, Eto. So we'll start now. Good morning once again, and thank you so much for joining our session on the Defining Factor program. Sorry, excuse me. So far, we've had presentations on Monday about financial management and investment readiness. And Tuesday, we had business development services. Today, we'll be looking at some of the legal issues that can affect a business. If you've missed any of our previous presentations, kindly check our Facebook page. The videos are there so you can watch and ask questions. We are available via our email address. That's info@jventurecapital.com. And then our telephone lines are also open. Kindly check the banner below the screen for any information that you may need. Thank you. So today we'll be looking at the legal issues that can face a business. This training is based on a project that is being funded by MasterCard Foundation. That's the MasterCard COVID-19 Recovery and Resilience Project, which aims at equipping Ghanaian businesses with services and tools that they can use to withstand shocks suffered from the pandemic. I'm sure some of us have had experiences with the pandemic that haven't been very pleasant regarding our businesses. So that's why the project is in place. Now, there are several partners on the project. We have Pixera Global, that is the lead implementing partner, which is in charge of providing coordination as well as monitoring and quality control. We also have MDF West Africa, which handles digitization. Considering the kind of world that we live in, I think we all would say that that's a very important thing. We also have J Venture Capital, that's us. So we handle financial management and restructuring, legal, and audits, branding, training, and advisory support. If you look at all our presentations during the duration of the program, you realize that they are tailored based on services that we offer and that are offered under the MasterCard Foundation COVID-19 and Recovery project. Other partners include Scale Up Africa as well as Global Mamas. Now, what are some of the legal issues that you think can affect a business? I want you to think of this and then answer in the comments if you're comfortable, or just think about some of the legal issues you think can affect a business in your mind. Personally, one of the main things would be failing to have agreements with your employees, because that can always come back to bite you. We believe that all these legal issues can be grouped under two things. That will be corporate governance and then compliance. Now, what then is corporate governance? Corporate governance is a system of rules, practices, and processes by which a firm is directed and controlled. As you can see, I've highlighted certain keywords that I want us to pay attention to throughout the entire presentations because it will keep coming up. Now, when we say rules, who are these rules set by? And We're talking about practices and processes. Are these practices general practices, or are they specific to whatever industry that your business is in? And who is in charge of directing and controlling and ensuring that these practices and processes are being put in place in the company? Now, let's look at what compliance is. I want us to think of the basic English meaning of compliance, which is to obey or to go according to. So, compliance would be explained as adherence to or following or obeying rules and regulations governing how things should be done. Now, if we want to go to the fundamentals, I think the best way to explain compliance and corporate governance would be compliance being the what. That is, what rules are being followed or what rules are required that my company or my business should follow. And then corporate governance would be the who. Who are the individuals or the people supposed to put these rules in place in the company? Now, these individuals would include upper management or senior officers in the company, or, in my opinion, anyone with chief in front of their title. So that would be the chief executive officer, chief operating officer, chief financial officer. As long as there's chief in front of your name, I think you should be involved in ensuring that these processes are put in place. Also will be the board of directors. Now, one thing we always need to keep in mind is that corporate governance involves being transparent and being accountable to the people in the company, to clients, and then to investors, and also to shareholders. So it's a whole balancing act. How this is done is based on policies that should be put in place in a company. Now, these policies would guide the management team to ensure that there's proper corporate governance in a company. So, some of these include the regulations of a company, a board charter. So, a board charter contains things for incorporated companies, things that the board can do, how the board should be governed, the option that directors might be put on subcommittees, among others. Then we also have board minutes. So board minutes will speak to items or things that transpired during a board meeting. We also have letters of appointments for directors and letters of appointments for the board secretary. And another very important one would be appointment letters for the CEO. Being a founder doesn't make you a CEO. The fact that you set up the company doesn't automatically mean that you are the CEO of that company. No, it does not work like that. You can be both, but then you need a letter giving you that appointment or authorizing your position as the CEO of a company. So I think that's a word that we shouldn't just throw around willy-nilly. Now, when we come to employees, we'll look at HR policy. Your HR policy should contain items like how disciplinary action can be taken, what happens in the issue of a bereavement or maternity leave, things like that. We also have another very important one and close to my heart. That would be employee offer letters. So you can't say, oh, Akosia, come and work in my company. I'll pay you 500 CDs and think that's the end of it. No. While the Contracts Act provides for verbal agreements, even though it makes exceptions in cases of mortgages or hire purchase agreements, because those are a bit sensitive. With employee offer letters, I would advise that those would be on paper and signed by all parties involved, with remuneration specifically put there, among other things. Then another thing would be job description. I think this is where some companies or some of us fail. while you give the person an offer letter and all that, what is the person doing? So the employee needs a job description to give them an idea of what they need to do every time they come to the workplace. Or else you'll be wasting money. They'll come and sit, enjoy your air conditioning, eat, use your internet, and then go back home. Now, another thing that's quite important is non-disclosure agreements, or NDAs for short. These sometimes are incorporated in employee offer letters, but there are times when they are in a different agreement altogether. We also have vehicle and asset policy. So these include the vehicles that the company has and how they should be used, and the responsibilities of the individual using them, who is in charge of that, and all that. We also have ethics policy. It's very advisable to do things according to a certain form of conduct. So that's where your ethics policy comes into place. We also have an onboarding process, which involves how you bring employees into the company and how you integrate them into your company, or to be part of the processes of the company. Another thing would be service level agreements. Now, service level agreements would be agreements between you and your client that will cater to specific deliverables on specific projects that you're working on with your client. There are some companies that engage in goods or engage in products that may be deemed to be hazardous or dangerous. So you would need, or even the equipment may have blades and be quite hazardous. So you would need health, safety, and environmental policy for a company like that. We also have product certifications, for example, the green label, and that's available in Ghana if you're interested in export. So that is all about keeping environment and sustainability in mind. We also have phytosanitary certificates. That's for smaller businesses who might want to export or import one item or the other. Now, every country usually has conditions or specifications regarding plants or plant products that are being imported into their country, or that is being exported out of their country. So in Ghana, we have that as well. And if we look at the United States, they are very specific about seeds and things like that. I don't know if there's a show called Border Patrol you watch, and they will be throwing people's things away. I think even some of us have had that issue where we are taking banku and okra soup, which is my favorite, to America, and then you see at the customs, they take it and then they throw it away. Your banku with the crab, your okra soup with the crabs and everything, all gone down the bin. So we always have to watch out for things like that as a business owner. Now, another thing would be standard of conduct policy, and then social media policy, which is very important in this age where everyone just shares anything and everything online. You have to ensure that employees in the company are following guidelines on what to share about the company, not regarding their personal lives. That's private. Now, why corporate governance and compliance? We've all experienced the recent banking crisis in Ghana and then the reforms. There were about 7 banks that were closed, and some of us may have lost or have reduced trust in the banking system, because one of the major issues there was lax corporate governance. That was one of the major causes. And in the United States, there was this major scandal in the 1990s and early 2000s. If you're a finance person, you'd probably know about the Enron scandal, how they even turned it into a whole cinema. They were lying. They were not being transparent about their accounting processes or what was going on in the company. They had a whole floor that was dedicated to people that would just come and sit and do nothing for show, just so when regulators come in, they will see that, oh, things are going on. But that wasn't the case. Now, you're thinking, as an MSME, so MSME is micro, small, medium enterprise. As a micro business, as a small business, as a medium business, why am I trying to think of corporate governance and compliance? My business is small. I'm the person doing everything. All I'm making is juice, or I'm wasn't just helping braid hair. Why do I need all these plenty things that I'm talking about? You need it because I'm sure you have plans on expanding. Everybody wants to be big. Everybody wants to go big. And even if you don't have plans on expanding, there are issues that always come up when you don't comply. If we look at the big or the major businesses, Amazon, Bezos, we look at Apple, they all started small and now they're big businesses. Imagine if they hadn't put in policies, or they hadn't put in considered issues of corporate governance from the beginning, then now they would really be in hot waters. Now, what then would be the importance of corporate governance and compliance to an MSME? One of the major things would be that it protects the integrity of the firm. The company can gain the trust of investors, customers, and the community at large, because this is a company that is being transparent about how they do things. Another importance would be that corporate governance results in excellent management. So you know that people are supposed to do what they are supposed to do at what time, and they are everything. There's a process for it, so it's followed. There's no waste. Everything is efficient. Another thing would be an importance would be cost. I know as a business owner, we're always looking of ways of saving or reducing costs to the company. Now you realize a lot of people know about their rights, and more importantly, how to enforce those rights. So if you're not being transparent and things go wrong with a shareholder or with an investor, they can always bring an action. And trust me, it's more tedious and more expensive to pursue an action than just to make sure you're doing the right thing. And also fines from regulatory institutions. Once these institutions find or get wind of what you're doing, once they come, all they want is to punish. And we should always make sure that we are not in a position where our business and our business name needs to suffer because we are not being compliant. Now, another thing would be reduce risks, mismanagement, and corruption. So, good corporate governance practices has reduced levels of risk of corruption and mismanagement, as I mentioned earlier, because there are specific processes or ways of doing things. Everyone is accountable and everyone is efficient, and you can always trace where mistakes are coming from. Another thing is that it promotes accountability and transparency. So people can come to invest in your business, clients will be interested in your business, among others. Now, let's look at compliance. Let's break it down. There's general compliance and then there's industry specific compliance. So when we're looking at general compliance, we're looking at business registration, tax registration, um, that's tax registration at Ghana Revenue Authority, business registration at the Registrar General's Department, and the tax registration and their implications. I'm sure that will be covered tomorrow. I will indicate who will be taking that at the end of the presentation. Then also there will be districts and municipal or metropolitan permits that you would need to take or pay for. Then also SNIT registration for your employees. So these are the main things and their general compliance. Then when we come to business registration, that is always done at the Registrar General's Department in Accra. That's around Kimbu. I'm sure most of us know that. They do a lot of things there. They do business name registration, company registration, partnership registration. So, business name registration, if you're a small business and you just want to protect the name of your business, you can go ahead and register that. That's about 60 CDs, and it can even be done online for those who are online savvy. You create an account. When you go on the Registrar General's Department website, the instructions are there and you can just go ahead. It's about 60 CDs. Then that's business name or sole proprietor registration. Then we also have partnership registration. So you have a lot of examples or instances where you want to enter a business either with your friend or with an investor, but that should be captured in an agreement and that should be registered as well at the Registrar General's Department. The forms are also available online, cost about 160 Ghana cedis. And we look at a company limited by shares, both private and public companies. So that costs about 230, 250 CDs. Forms can also be found online, or we can walk into any of the Registrar General's offices and then get your registration done. Now, one thing I want us to keep in mind is that our Registrar Generals, they do a lot of things. One of the very important things will be intellectual property. So, patents, trademarks for your company, if you want to protect your trade secrets, which are very important for emerging companies, or you want to protect your ideas, they can help you do that as well. Now they have offices in Greater Accra, Ashanti region, and Western region, and then Northern region. And now they have options where you can register at the district levels as well. So you don't need to go to all these major regions to get your registration done. Even if you're unable to do it online, you can just visit your district assembly. They have an office near the district assembly and they can assist you through the process. Now, when we look at industry specific compliance, there are some industries that need extra certifications or licenses or approvals based on what they're doing. So you would need maybe a permit. So take, for instance, mining. You would need the Environmental Protection Agency's approval from them before you engage in mining. Then pharmaceutical society or pharmaceutical council as well. There's this thing about pharmacies not being very close to each other. I think there needs to be about 100 or 200 meters between one pharmacy and the other. So things like that you always need to keep in mind based on your industry. Then sorry, Ghana National Fire Service. They, I think, are across board because you need to ensure that you have fire extinguishers, among others, at your business or at your shop. Also, Ghana Export Promotion Authority, and then Food and Drugs Authority as well. And then the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, I mentioned earlier, grain labels, and then phytosanitary certificates. The Ministry of Food and Agriculture can assist with that as well. We also have the Ghana Standards Authority. Now, let's take this example. So, in the past couple of years, I think one of the main businesses that has been coming up a lot is courier services. So, I have two friends, Tracy and Loving, and they want to set up a courier business. So they have a business name, they've registered at Registrar Generals, they have their documents, they have their certificates of incorporation, they've registered at GRA as well for tax. They've even registered their 10 employees for SNIT. Now, do we think that they are done? Can they start operations because they've done the general requirement, or they've covered the general and the general compliance already? What do you think? Um, what do you think they need to do next? Do you think they're done? Can they start operations? Please feel free to indicate in the comments. Now, they are not done, because when it comes to courier services, there's an extra license they need, which is specific to their industry. And that's from the Postal and Courier Services Regulatory Commission. That's around cantonments. So you need a license from this regulatory body before you can carry out courier services. And the application process involves you bringing your registration documents from the registrar generals, as well as your SNIT clearance certificate. So you understand why it would be important for you to register your employees for SNIT, and as well, and registering your business at the registrar generals as well, because some of the regulatory commissions will not even look your way if you don't have your certificates or documents from these two people. Now, let's look at the Companies Act 2019, and that's Act 992. There have been a few amendments, or actually, the old act has been repealed, but there have been the introduction of certain elements that we believe need going over. So the new act establishes an independent office, which is called the Office of the Registrar of Companies, which is responsible for everything regarding registration and regulation of businesses. And it will be in effect within 2 years after the passage of the act. They're trying to push a lot of online rather than in person or paper. And there will also be new forms, but all these will be communicated to us before it's put in place. Now, for those who have registered their business already, especially as a company or a private company limited by shares, you realize that you received two certificates at the end of the process. You received a certificate to commence business, and then you received a certificate of incorporation. Under the new act, the certificate to commence business is abolished. So you can just go ahead and start operations after receiving your certificates of incorporation. Now, another thing under the new act, which is Act 992, is the introduction of a business name reservation. So you can reserve a business name for a period of 2 months, and you can go back and apply for a renewal. I think is very frustrating sometimes when you have a business idea, you think you have the perfect name, you do the online search or you call them, or even more frustratingly, you go there and then they tell you the name has been taken. Or sometimes you have to go with 5 different name options. It can get a little frustrating, a little crazy. So you can reserve your name now. Now, another thing which comes back to corporate governance, or what we've been talking about this whole time, is who are the people in the company responsible for ensuring that these processes are being administered. And because of the issues, the banking crisis as well, so a lot of things have been put in place regarding directors. Before you can be a director of a company now, you need to include in your application, or in the company's application, they need to include a statutory declaration by each proposed director indicating that within the preceding 5 years, they have not been charged with or convicted of a criminal offense involving fraud or dishonesty or relating to the promotion, incorporation, or management of a company, or declared insolvent, or if they have the days and the particulars of insolvency. So basically, the fundamental thing of what I just read is that if you're going to be a director in a company under the new act, you need to include a statutory declaration. You need to show that you haven't, in 5 years or within the period of 5 years, you haven't been convicted or you haven't been charged of a criminal offense, you haven't committed fraud, you haven't been dishonest, especially with issues regarding a company that you've been a director for before. And if you have to state all these things as part of the documents for application. Then another thing that has been put in place regarding the new act is the company secretary. So this company secretary, per the act, should be someone who has an academic qualification in law or is a member of a professional body or someone who is a lawyer or a chartered accountant or someone who has an idea of what company law is. So they can always inform the directors or the members of the company of what needs to be done, of changes in the law at any point in time. This all goes back to ensuring that there's transparency and accountability in the process of running a company. Now, another person that if there was or there might be a collusion to do any wrongdoing that can assist would be an auditor, because they have the power to sort of work or cook the books. So under the new act, there are also strict measures for them. That's the Act 992. So auditors are to be rotated for every 6 years. So an auditor of a company should not serve for more than 6 years. Now, another thing in the new act is the company's bulletin. So the bulletin would contain notifications in respect of companies. So that would be publication of fees. So if the fees change, I mentioned earlier, sole proprietorship registration is 60 CDs. Incorporation of a private or public company is between 230 to 250 Ghana cedis, and partnership is about 160 cedis. So if these fees are to change per the new act, which is the Companies Act, Act 992, it will be included in the company's bulletin, will be made aware of those changes. Another thing that will be included in the company's bulletin would be court orders in respect of a stay of proceedings or insolvency proceedings. And then notices striking company names of the register of companies. Then another thing is the change from regulations to constitution. So a company can be registered without filing any regulation or constitution except unlimited companies. Now, there are things that you always need to note as a micro, small, or medium enterprise or business owner. You should always stay updated with changes in regulations. Whilst ignorance might be blissful, when it comes to issues of compliance, no one would mind you. You will be charged for your ignorance. Then you should always have access to the following services. That would be legal services, accounting and audit services, business development services. So you can have ways to always make sure that your business is on the right path or a growth trajectory. And you should always ask a lot of questions. So that brings us to the end of this presentation. I will look at the questions in the comments and answer. Okay, so someone asked if, sorry if I don't get the name. Someone asked if HR officers should have a legal background since they handle corporate governance and compliance. Not necessarily, but it's not only the duty of your HR to ensure that corporate governance is being good corporate governance is being practiced in your company. There are other officers that should assist. Top management should also assist. And if there are any questions, it's always good to speak with a lawyer about it. Someone is asking when Registrar Generals is going fully digital. Unfortunately, I can't speak to that because I'm not there. But I'm sure it will be soon. Most of their services now can be accessed online, so that should not be an issue. Let me see if I can get another question. Okay, so someone mentioned that they need more clarification on patents. So that will come under intellectual property. There are processes in place. Sorry. There are processes you need to follow if you have an idea or an invention that you think can be beneficial. So you go to registrar generals and they will check if it's an idea that can be patented, and then they will take you through the process. And on that as well, it can also involve trademarks as well. Um, Someone is asking, is there a strategy in the Companies Act to industrialize Ghana in the next 5 to 20 years? Unfortunately, I can't speak to that at the moment, but Isaac. We can check and then get back to you. I'm not sure, so I'm sure we'll reach out to you later on that. And then let me see if there's another question. Okay. Someone said I've come out with a product in the food and beverage industry, and I'm afraid of. Oh, I think I've addressed that already. Oh, no. I'm afraid of similar imitations in the future. Okay. So you'd have to speak with the individuals. Yeah, that was under intellectual property. Yes. So I think I've addressed that already. Um, we're almost out of time. Sharifa, I think if you wouldn't mind sending us an email or calling our number is on the banner below so that we can have details, because I'm not sure if you're comfortable sharing everything. So we can have details and then explain further. Okay. So that's all the time we have for now. If you have any further questions, please check um, or send us an email at info@jventurecapital, or you can call us on 0302 975907. Okay. Tomorrow we'll have Alex Aite. So he will take us through audits and then tax filing and then its implications. I think someone's still asking questions. Please send your questions to the email address or call the phone number. We have a team that is manning that station to assist you when necessary. Thank you so much for joining, and we hope to see you tomorrow. Have a wonderful day.